Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the PodFix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 56. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
We're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight, so I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but we're going to be bringing news back a little bit. Me and Jay started out the show by doing movie news, talking about different things. We've kind of gotten away from that. So we haven't really been reacting to news, talking about news really too much. And I know everyone really knows the news as it happens because people who listen to this, follow the news as well. But it's just something that I really miss talking about. And fuck it, it's my show.
Me too.
So I miss talking about it. I miss reacting to it. I miss speculating. I miss, talking about different things that happen in the news. So we've come with a bunch of different news stories. We're going to do that towards the end of the show. We're going to talk about news. We're going to just speculate on things. Just have a lot of fun just talking about that type of shit. Because I think that's when me and you were at our best, it seems. I don't know. I always feel like I'm just grasping for straws when it comes to like this final segment. Always having to do like some sort of top five if there's nothing else to talk about. And
look, we don't ever like really write things off. We change things around all the time. But it's fun. It's just fun to talk about new and exciting things that gets dropped. Whether it be news, whether it be different kind of castings or directing or movie announcements and stuff like that. It's and then exciting and fun to talk
speculate on it, and I get to make fun of people from Hollywood.
Right, exactly.
So Jay, this week you got out to the theaters. I didn't. I had to work on Saturday. I had some other shit to do, but I wasn't able to get out to the theaters. Mainly one of the things I had to do was edit this podcast and get it out. So what did you see this week?
Well, on the TV front, I finished up Glow. Glow on Netflix was
just
a show that you saw.
Just 3 months behind.
Exactly. Way behind. It's fun. It's an enjoyable show. It took a few episodes for me to get used to it and the tone and for it to get going, for me at least. And it was enjoyable. I mean, I'll probably catch season 2.
Found it interesting that you felt the need to send me a quote from the show. And the quote that you selected to send me.
Well, I was a little buzzed at the time. And
what do you mean I don't like you? I just had period sex with you. And I was like, of course.
I think we had this conversation on the podcast. And I think that's why I sent it to you, because I thought it was funny.
We had the conversation on the podcast because you brought up a fucking distasteful scene from a film.
Exactly.
And I was like, wow, not only is he not topical by talking about Glow, he's not topical in bringing up a joke that happened 3 months ago on the show, 2 months ago, whatever it was.
It was a very impulsive, random text message that probably, looking back on it, probably made no sense
whatsoever. It made zero
to
sense to me. I looked at Lauren, I'm like, he's at it again.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He's at it again. We got to stop him. He's gone into his menstrual blood vamp form of Jay.
He's off his rocker.
Because that's the big rumor, is Jay, that you are a menstrual vamp and that you get your rocks off to that.
Oh God, no!
It's your fetish. It's your thing.
That's the rumor in the very protected little bubble of podcast conversations.
That's just a rumor in this house between me and my wife.
No. Trust me. I'm one of those people that are very squeamish on blood. I could never be a doctor or a nurse. Wouldn't happen for me. Anyway. But when you gotta get your rocks off, you gotta get your rocks off one way or another.
Oh my God.
So anyway, moving on. So Glow was semi-enjoyable. True Detective Season 1. I revisited it.
That's awesome.
I rewatched it. It was something that just kind of came to me, and I was like, you know what? I really want to revisit this show.
It's not even a town. It's like the memory of a town, and the town's fading.
Oh, my God. It was so worth it.
What the fuck does that mean?
It was so worth it.
Fuck does that mean?
Loved it.
The car is a place for quiet reflection. There's that first episode was hands down one of my favorite first episodes of like any TV show ever.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely loved that first
and
episode.
even still, watching it a second time, it still felt like a 2-hour episode. And it was only 1 hour. You know, it was an hour an episode.
They packed a lot.
But for some odd reason, the way it flowed, the way they packed all the dialogue and information in and character development, for some odd reason, it just felt like a really well balanced, really well done long episode.
How was that one 4-minute panning shot through that trailer park? Does that still hold up?
I actually watched it over again after I saw it. Yeah, all the way throughout the episode was over. I rewound it and then watched it again, just out of admiration. I mean, I really was blown away, and I was trying to watch when it first started and like if there was any kind of cuts, but there wasn't. There's no cuts. And
it's not like Daredevil season 1 where that hallway fight.
There are sometimes
which is
very,
awesome.
very seamless cuts.
Right.
You know, just like Birdman. Even the opening of La La Land, there was, I think, one stitch in that opening sequence.
We're gonna talk about terrible editing and cuts, especially in action scenes, coming up when I get to what I watch. So, but
it was amazing rewatching that show.
Awesome.
I mean, I love that episode, and I love that show in general.
I think I've gone back and I've watched that season at least 3 times total. Like, since it's come out.
I will definitely watch it a third time, but
and Jay,
it won't be for a little while.
Still have never gotten past episode 3 of season 2.
See, season 2, I'm a forgiver of sorts because there are certain characters and there's certain storylines that really worked. Colin Farrell was robbed. He deserved like awards.
We all know from last week that
character.
you love Colin Farrell.
I'm a fan. I've always been a fan, especially with his dramatic and indie roles, like smaller roles, like character pieces. He can't do it in the Hollywood blockbuster realm.
Bullseye and Daredevil. Every time I think of Colin Farrell, that's what I go to. Bullseye and Daredevil.
That was in the beginning of his stardom. He just sort of rode that wave, and at the time he was
You want to see a bad
boy.
movie with him that's like another Hollywood one. Him and Anton Yelchin in the remake of Fright Night.
I know.
So bad.
I saw it.
Such a bad film.
And I got a girl crush on that one girl that's in the movie too. Forget her name, but it's a shame, you know?
Yeah, well, the dude
he
can't
could
act,
be a big star, but
well, the guy can't act.
it's not his fault.
No, it was Vince Vaughn's fault. That's why. And Taylor Kitsch. Taylor Kitsch was terrible.
It's really the creator.
True
It's really
Detective.
it's the guy who did the series. He's coming back for season 3 slowly but surely. They made an announcement. Mahershala Ali is actually confirmed to be in season 3, but he's the only one confirmed so far. We don't know anything else about it. That's it. And I'm excited. I'm optimistic, but I get it. They were rushed. They were rushed to throw out another season. Season 1 was so successful. He just got a little ahead of himself and bit a little too much off.
I guess
that he could handle.
Sure,
in a short amount of time.
I guess.
So anyway, moving on. I
don't judge the production. I judge the quality of product that was put in front of me.
I know.
So I'm not gonna be apologetist like you are. The quality of the product that was put in front of me was dog shit, especially when it was eclipsed in a pale comparison to what came before it.
I know. So quickly, I watched 2 films in theaters that just dropped in our area: Logan Lucky and Wind River.
Kind of makes you wish you kind of had a movie pass, right, Jay?
Well, we'll get to that later, I think, David.
All right, go ahead.
I just got Movie Pass. Literally, a day or 2 ago, I think. I ordered it. It's something that's been stewing on my brain.
I guinea pigged you.
A little bit. I mean, I was thinking about it.
I'm gonna get Jay.
The news dropped.
I'm gonna get Jay to try this out because I don't know whether it's worth it for me.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think ultimately it's worth it. It kind of fits my schedule and stuff like that. However, I'm used to planning ahead of time of sorts, as far as like forcing myself to see a showtime and then buying it online and then go.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more later on in the news segment. You know, you'll kind of go through the steps of it and like how it works and stuff like that, so people have a better understanding of it.
I'm just gonna quickly go through it. It's Steven Soderbergh back in filmmaking.
Yeah, 'cause he was doing TV for a while, right?
He's semi-retired. Apparently, he said he was going to be done with feature films. He went into the TV.
He also did some direct to video stuff, like the Girlfriend Experience and stuff like that.
So yeah,
that was more of like a not quite
with
video
Sasha
one.
Grey,
Yeah,
the porn star. And I saw that movie. It's odd. It's not really.
And of course,
it wasn't that great. It was very experimental. Put it that way.
And of course, the great Magic Mike.
Wow,
you love that movie. That is like.
It's a decent movie.
That is like your dream life. It's like you would love to be Big Dick Richie.
You know what? That would be awesome. It'd be way better than being an escort.
I guess. I don't know.
Like American Gigolo, Richard Gere, or
Greer. Was he Pam Greer's fucking brother? Richard Gere.
Sorry.
Gere.
I knew that sounded wrong. Like Greer. Like Greer.
Pam Greer's
Richard
white
Gere.
brother. Richard Gere.
And our boy, the Punisher himself on HBO. What the hell was that show? He had a Gigolo show on HBO.
Oh, Thomas Jane, Hung.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I saw that.
For half a second, I was like, John Bernthal? Was it Gigolo?
Oh, no. That was kind of enjoyable. It was a little fun little show. And so Steven Soderbergh comes back, and it's got a great ensemble. Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, Daniel Craig, like you've never seen him before. Riley Coe has a really interesting part. And Katie Holmes is just Katie Holmes with an accent.
Still Katie Holmes in it.
She's still hot. Hey,
Oh, God, I don't think so, dude. When I saw her in Ray Donovan, I was like, and I understand.
I know. She's.
Yeah. They had the braces on her and stuff.
She's trying to be an actress, but she's not really an actress.
No, she hasn't.
She's just not.
I haven't liked her since
she's just a former Dawson's Creek star.
Yeah, I was like,
that's it. That's all she was really good for.
I haven't liked her since she was Joey Potter on the Creek, man.
That's pretty much it. I know. But did you know that Seth MacFarlane actually was in this movie?
Yeah, he was in the previews. He was in the trailer.
Well, not many people actually recognized him because he doesn't really look like himself. He's got a fake stash on.
Yeah, he's a trucker.
He's a NASCAR racer, and he's just obnoxious about it. And then also future Captain America, Sebastian Stan.
Maybe.
AKA Winter Soldier.
It still could be Anthony Mackie in the future. We don't know.
I know. I'm just kidding. But he also played a NASCAR driver as well.
You know nothing, Jay Short.
I know. Don't talk to me about Marvel films. Talk to Dave. And it's essentially an association. Literally in the movie, it says this: Ocean 7-Eleven. It's an Ocean 7-Eleven. It's a very hillbilly.
So yeah, when we talked about reviewing it, it's the reason we're not doing a mini-sode is A, I was too busy, I couldn't get out, and B, for Logan Lucky, like I watched the trailers, I was interested with the first trailer, and then I didn't have the want to see it enough to A, not edit the podcast, or B, not go out drinking with my wife on Saturday night, or there was things that I wanted to do over seeing that film, and sure. I just realized that it is Soderbergh pretty much doing a parody of himself and films that he's done before.
Yeah.
And he does it, and it almost seems like a very lowbrow way of doing it. It's like let's take these dapper gentlemen who were thieves and criminals, but I made you love them, and now let's put them in the middle of America. Let's pander to the lowest common denominator.
A little bit more intelligent as the movie goes along, sort of, but ultimately, you're right. It is.
It's almost too meta and almost too self-aware, and we've seen movies do that to success. Recently, Deadpool comes to mind, and some others get very meta and get very. The thing that I can think of that did it the best ever was Thank You for Smoking. Like that. You remember like how meta and self-aware.
It never gets that
film
meta
was.
though. It never gets to those kind of levels.
It just to me it seemed like it.
But it sets itself
Soderbergh
up
was not
to,
the type of person to bring that type of comedy to screen. You know what I mean?
He should not have came back on the scene with this kind of genre.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't see him as a satirist. I just don't. I don't see him as that type of person.
And it was just an okay, decent film. Honestly, there's nothing bad about it. It's just it is what it is. I mean, there's certain characters work, certain characters don't work. but the story is kind of predictable, and
What's a heist movie?
it's a heist movie. Even at the end, it's just kind of like, okay, all right. You just kind of shrug, like, oh, all right.
I'm surprised there isn't a George Clooney cameo.
It's
in
so
there.
forgettable. It's just so forgettable.
Like I'm surprised.
I mean, you get a Hilary Swank appearance at the very end, playing an FBI agent who barely speaks. She just kind of emotes and walks around trying to inspect the situation and figure things out, and that's it. Like, and they try to like hang things on a cliffhanger of sorts for like a sequel. I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah, after I decided I wasn't going to theaters to see it, I read some reviews and nothing has been glowing about it whatsoever. So I was, I could definitely wait for this to come to HBO.
Well,
or
I'm
Netflix.
done talking about that movie. So this is a movie that I saw. Well, I'm going to give my grade. My grade is a B- for Logan Lucky.
No, that seems awfully high for a film that you didn't want to talk about at all.
No, I did. I talked about it. It's a B-. I stand by
I
it.
talked about it.
Wind River.
It's a hill you're going to die on.
I stand by that. It's a B-.
Logan Lucky's a B-.
It's a B- for me.
Plant my flag and
I'm planning it.
bury me at Wounded Knee. All right, so Wind River.
Directed, written by the newest and greatest Taylor Sheridan.
The newest and greatest.
Yes.
Did you switch allegiances for your directors?
Oh, I'll tell you.
like I change underwear that I've sweated through.
Well, okay, so he is the writer of Sicario, Hell or High Water.
Right.
This is his directorial debut, and
Okay.
it is just gorgeous.
Okay.
It is very bleak. It's in Wyoming. It's set in Wyoming.
Right. So
And-
I'm picturing a whole lot of helicopter rentals to film expanse landscape. A lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
snowmobiles being driven around mountaintops.
Any of them
and
driven
stuff
by
like that.
James Bond.
If Jeremy Renner is the new Bond after Daniel Craig, maybe.
No, you're not going to have an American Bond. Get out of here.
I know, I'm just kidding. But so Jeremy Renner is
Panic on
a
the streets
hunter
of London. Anyway.
of sorts, and he's a tracker as well. And this is like set in the Native American preserved land,
And in Wyoming, who isn't a hunter and a tracker?
right? Exactly. But this is like they did a really good job at place and showing how desolate and how abandoned and how just sparse this whole area was in this particular area of Wyoming, in this Native American preserved area, that the folks that live there are either just noble guys just trying to get through and be noble people, and then you have some fucking
Like Ned Stark. They're all Ned Stark.
they are kind of like Ned Starks. You're right. And then you have some people that are just downright bums.
The lone wolf dies. The pack survives.
It's true. And so Elizabeth Olsen comes in as an FBI agent, kind of a young fish out of the water. Gets sent in because she's the closest person to the area. She was like originally based out of Las Vegas, I believe. So she had to get flown over there
Okay.
because there was a death.
Okay.
And it was a homicide of sorts.
And that person crossed 3 state lines, and that's why she had to go there?
I guess
Because that's
so.
the only way that a murder in
Well-
Wyoming would become jurisdiction of the FBI.
Apparently, yes, because
It's a
they're-
serial murderer.
It's also talking about how short-staffed they are, and also the fact that apparently not many people care about Native Americans being missing, or deaths.
Well, they
and
go on
stuff like
those.
that.
They go on those walks, right? The spirit walks, right? And he went on a spirit walk.
Oh my god!
Find your soulmate, Homer.
So, her and Jeremy Renner's character, they essentially get
That
together.
talking fox was just a talking dog.
Oh god! And they try to track down to figure out what the hell happened to this girl, and also what the hell happened to this other mysterious person who they found killed,
Okay.
laid by himself in the wilderness.
Okay. So
I
it's a
gotta
mystery.
say, remember Gil Birmingham in Hell or High Water?
Yeah.
He was great, opposite of Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, right.
in the movie.
Right. And he was also
played
a Native American
He
character.
played
in
a
this.
father in this movie
Okay.
who was close with Jeremy Renner, and a Native American.
All right,
and
so
it was
this
brilliant.
FBI agent
Really
is
well done.
alone in the Wyoming wilderness, grew up in the area, but really knows nothing about the forest, so she has to basically hire her own hunter tracker to help her track down this murderer.
Right. Now, I've heard some people complain that
Sounds pretty far-fetched,
the
man.
guys pretty much are doing everything for her, and she didn't really do much. She's just like kind of like
No.
another Emily Blunt character.
She
in
used the
Sicario that
she used the resources
didn't
of the
really know.
United States to hire the best. She
Well,
hired.
she didn't really hire. Like,
she hired her own
she
Suicide
asked.
Squad.
She asked. No, it's just what they do, and it's one of those things that this movie takes its time, and it is well paid off, and it's very gruesome at times.
I love the way you
do
choose
see-
words. It takes its time. For Jay speak, that means it was boring, but I didn't mind.
No,
it.
no, no, no. I think some people might find it boring in the first quarter of it, probably because
Okay.
it is
So
a slow setup, and it is very, like you said, a lot of tracking shots of Wyoming and like this and that, and investigative stuff.
well, you don't have an environment
But-
like Wyoming, and you don't, and then not use it as a character. Like obviously, the
Yeah.
environment is
It
a character unto itself.
really is an incredible film. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's one of those surprise films. It's one of the best dramas I've seen all year long, honestly. So it's up there for me.
So what's your score, Dick Nuts?
A minus.
All right, yeah. Well, Jesus, it's one of the best films of the year. A minus.
One of the best dramas of the year so far.
A minus.
A minus.
God, man, grow some balls and just throw your fucking score out there and just be like, there it is, for all the world to see, all 2 inches of it. A plus.
Look, it's already on there. A minus. Boom.
All right, fair
I
enough.
had it predicted.
Fair enough. So you got a B minus and an A minus.
B minus and A minus.
And you're so non-committal. Everything's a minus for you. No, that's good. Actually, I do want to see Wind River. Definitely more so than I want to see Logan Lucky. There's this thing about being married where you want to go to the theaters and you have to convince another person to want to see the film that you want to see. That's not a film that Lauren's going to want to see.
No. This
Yeah.
is not for everybody.
And Logan Lucky's not even a film that Lauren wants to see. So, for me to go to the movies, I now have to go by myself, which is fine with me. It's just that I then have to find the time where we don't have something planned together. And most weekends, there's shit to do. Even if it's not something we're doing together, there's lawns to be mowed, there's dinner to be cooked, there's just shit to do. So
The occasional sneak out of work early and just get to the
I
theater.
don't get to do that, Jay. I work 12 hours a day. I don't get to sneak anywhere. I get to come home to more work when I'm done, usually editing this podcast. So this week, what I got to watch was all 8 episodes of The Defenders. You're on what, episode 3, you said?
I'm actually on 2.
So you're kind of like at the beginning. I will say that there were a lot of things that I enjoyed in The Defenders. I think I enjoyed catching up with the characters again, more so than I enjoyed any of the villains, more so than I enjoyed the action. Actually, I fucking hated the action. Like we were talking about, an entire action scene that was 4 minutes long and no cuts, just a tracking shot that happened in True Detective. We talk about things like the fight scenes in Daredevil season 1 in that hallway. They've gotten so far away from that type of stuff. Me and Lauren were watching the end fight scene, and I'm not going to give away what goes on in it, but I counted 13 different cuts in like 30 seconds. It is not clean action. You know what I mean? Like the camera never pans out and shows you the action that's going on. In fact, the camera comes in very close and it's a dark scene and everything's very muddy. And all of the action throughout the entire series is like that. So it's like you bring in Daredevil, but then you treat him nothing like you treated him in his own series.
I wonder if they brought in a new showrunner.
I didn't look into like everything that's running it and stuff
is
like
a little
that.
peculiar.
I felt that they did Danny Rand, justice in a way in keeping him exactly the same as he was in his series. So if you hate him in his series, you're going to hate him in this. And then you're just going to realize that's who Danny Rand is. That's his characterization. So he is the lackadaisical child of the Defenders. He's kind of this kid who's kind of like a child-eyed wonderment. And he's just like, you know what? Because I think this should happen, I'm the one that's going to do it, and I will make it happen. And he's kind of naive in a way, where the other ones have seemed to have gone through a little bit. Maybe they're more adult about everything, especially Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Jessica Jones was by far, I think, my favorite part of this series. Luke Cage was just Luke Cage, man. I kind of felt like he was there. Like once they took him out of Harlem and they put him in with the rest of the Defenders and they were fighting for the city.
Fish out of water. He doesn't know what the hell to do.
But it was really just like, I feel like they don't know what to do with that character when you put him around these other heroes because he is so powerful. I mean, he's almost indestructible. I say almost because he does get knocked out at a point and you get reminded that his skin is super hard, but all the internal organs are still just as soft and malleable, which means if a concussion is caused by your brain moving inside your head and striking the inside of your skull, you're still prone to concussions. So he can get a concussion. He can be next to a bomb that goes off and cause internal damage to his organs. So, I mean, but he is so powerful compared to the rest of them that they really have to do things to kind of like downplay him. So they kind of have to downplay his character and his role in everything.
Right.
So that way he's not overpowerful. It's weird to say it was a series that could have been done in 4 or 5 episodes, and they did it in 8. And at the same time, it still felt rushed. Right? It's so weird. It's just, it leaves you with this weird feeling. It's definitely nowhere near as good as Daredevil season 1. Nowhere near as good as Daredevil season 2.
At all. You know why? Because we did not hear any buzz.
No.
There was no buzz.
There was some
leading
early
up to
screener
this.
copies of like the first 4 episodes that were going around and stuff like that.
But again, this is something like Justice League. This is something like the Avengers, where this is supposed to be massive. This is supposed to be like the tits. Like everything amounts to this.
I wanted it to.
And they should be promoting the hell out of it.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's good, it's decent. Like I enjoy it.
Yeah, but the fact that they had so many other seasons with the other characters being fantastic, they should have had all the right people on this one series.
It also felt like it ended like Lord of the Rings, like, you know, after whatever happens and they're all going their separate ways and they do these little endings to catch up with people.
God, it's the worst,
I felt like, oh man, like just, is it over? Nope. All right, one more. Is it over? No. All right, one more. Is it over? No. All right, one more.
Yeah.
And it also kind of felt like they betrayed themselves in a little bit. They betrayed their own mythology because hand soldiers, who historically were incredibly hard for Daredevil to fight in both of his series, Nobu in season 1 and the whole rest of the hand in season 2 of Daredevil, those guys fall pretty easily in this series. You know, Daredevil punches them once and down they go. But in, you know, his series, he was fighting to a standstill. He was bloody beaten pulp, you know, when he got into fights. In this, his fighting is effortless. You know, it's almost like, and no spoilers, but he's been retired at this point. He left the superhero game, so he should be out of practice. He should be more beaten, more broken, more bruised, and instead he's doing it effortlessly. There's just these little things, these little attention to detail that I felt like they didn't
picking up on, yeah.
That they didn't pay to each character in respect to their own series, and they really didn't bring it together well. They definitely didn't have their Avengers moment, you know, like that moment in Avengers where all of them are together. And
I thought they had a hallway scene.
That happens in like episode 3.
Oh, no.
And that hallway scene is less than like 20 seconds. It is really not much of a hallway scene, right? It's not, and that.
Oh, they really dropped.
They really dropped the ball on it. I really think they did. I mean, if I was gonna give it a score, it'd be a C+. Like Defenders gets a C+.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I wanted to rate them all, Daredevil season 1, Daredevil season 2, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Defenders.
I think a lot of people would have
Defenders,
Luke
then
Cage
Iron Fist
over Jessica Jones.
Yeah, I
really enjoyed Luke Cage. I really enjoyed Jessica Jones
Luke
as
Cage
well.
fell apart at the end. It definitely fell apart at the end.
But for me, I just dig Jessica Jones's vibe a little bit more, and I think it stayed true from start to finish a little bit more than Luke Cage. Like you said, it just fell apart a little bit. But I loved the atmosphere. I loved the humor. I like the characters in Luke Cage. I thought that was really cool.
I liked all that stuff.
But I like Jessica Jones. You know, she's just a blunt bitch that likes to drink and
she's got a great ass.
And that's like kind of like her shtick, right? You know, just black leather coat, jeans,
dresses like
boots.
my wife.
She does. You're right. She She does dress like her.
That's why I'm attracted to it. But yeah, it just felt like it all like fell apart. They didn't pay enough respect to the characterizations that they had beforehand, with the exception of Danny Rand, which he stayed, a shitty character.
Well, I chose not to watch Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Don't hate me on that.
No, that's fine. They crafted a pretty weak story to tie them all together. And in the end, the action was just absolutely god-awful. So, Defenders, take it or leave it. What I think going forward Netflix should do, they have all these seasons planned. I think they need to just stop. Don't do seasons. And do 90 to 120-minute movies. Netflix original movies with these characters. Tell these smaller singular stories and don't get yourself on such a... And when I say grand scale, like don't take it so far.
They ruin their viewership.
I know but if they've already done scaling
financially,
back.
It's not working.
I know, and Punisher comes out in November. Rumored is that it comes out in November. That's going back to the 13 episode formula.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's going back to so all the solo series will be 13 episodes, but the Defenders is 8. It seems like Netflix has moved to like this small, like Atypical was 8 episodes. Some of their other series are moving. What is it? Friends from College is 8 episodes. That's the formula they want to move to, these smaller seasons, so they can put out more content weekly. You know what I mean? 13 episodes for a lot of people, that's tough to watch in one weekend. Whereas if you make it 8 episodes, people can watch that in one weekend, and come Friday the next week, they're on to the next Netflix original series. So it almost behooves them to make it 8 episodes. However, come November when Punisher comes out, that'll be back to 13 episodes. But I want to see them stop doing that. I don't want that, because then you're spending too much time with the character. If you're not going to put in the time, you're not going to give the writing, you're not going to put the showrunners behind it to really usher forth a strong story with strong characterization, and obviously because you're having superheroes, great action, then don't do it. Do a 2-hour-long movie that comes out once a year. Who's going to argue with that? That's already the formula that's working in the theaters. Why not do it on your Netflix stuff too?
But everything is a gamble, Dave. Like everything is hit or miss. You just never know what you're going to get.
Well, I know, but I feel like that's the better way to do it.
Look at Warner Brothers. They've been trying so hard to make good movies,
but maybe
and they just can't.
But maybe going forward, instead of all right, so let's say we continue doing these as series, but let's say you want to add a Moon Knight in, or you want to give Colleen Wing her own small story, then you do it in a movie, in a Netflix original movie. Like they have these characters. There might be something in the contract that they can't do it that way. That's always a possibility. Because as we'll talk about later, Disney kind of has their own plans for streaming and doing things differently.
I think people are starting to get into the vibe of series, though. I think people are liking the fact that they don't have to rely on, they don't have to struggle with the whole cable system where it's only on 8 o'clock on Monday, blah, 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 their show, blah, blah, blah. They have to watch it. I
know, but
they can actually take their time.
Yeah, the digestibility.
And digest it slowly over a course of time when they want to. I think people are starting to get into that a little bit more.
You can do the same thing with Netflix original movies. You could have, if all of the seasons leading up to them were all 2-hour-long movies, you could spend one weekend watching each of the Defenders movies, leading right into the Defenders movie, right, and still probably, with the stories they told in each of those seasons, had just as strong of a film.
But I also think that they are still being pretty experimental, and they are a new company, and like they said before, they're in debt. They are actually thinking long term. They don't worry about the debt that they have right now because they think long term wise they are going to be massively successful.
If they don't increase quality, which costs money,
well,
they're going to be in more debt. They're going to fold.
That's part of the issue right now that they're dealing with. They're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and it's a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
So they're teetering with some things, and some things are working, some things are not.
All right, Jay. The other thing that I watched this week, same thing you watched this week, Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6, and it was motherfucking epic. Skip ahead about 10 minutes because we're going to be talking about that if you want to avoid spoilers. So
Holy shitballs.
This is it. This is the.
Can I first just say off, like, right from the get-go, I was just enamored with this cinematographer, the director, whoever the fuck it was. I think it was the director. The way the whole episode was shot and flowed, everything was just gorgeous and really well done to me. And then I look at his filmography, and he can't make a feature film to save his life.
No, you said this is from the director of Terminator Genesis, and what was the other film?
Thor
Dark World. Right, which Thor Dark World's a bad movie.
But
it's not not as bad as Genesis.
But he has a lot of TV credentials in his filmography.
But you also think about what he was working with when he did both of those films. Not that Marvel doesn't rein in their costs. They do. Disney reins in their costs. Sure. But he was working with almost unlimited funds with those films. Whereas when he gets to this, he's literally given $1 million to make 75 minutes of television, and that's it. And he's given 3 weeks to shoot it. So he's going to make smart decisions about how to do it. Not to mention, he has a producer who's going to help him make those smart decisions.
Well, for example, what was a smart decision? Dany and Tyrion walking in between the two dragons, but only showing their front quarter. Don't show the whole dragon. Show
little things like that.
But it was a really gorgeous shot. You saw the castle in the background. They're walking down. It was a beautiful shot. Saving money on CGI effects.
So was the shot of the gate going up and all 9 of them walking out into it's not the darkness, but it's almost like the mist. Like they're just walking off into the great northern
There's a lot
beyond,
of good shots of that
like
later
nothing.
on with the polar bear.
Oh my god! So they go beyond the wall and they are tracking the dead because
can we start before that? How about the conversations that those characters were all having, all leading up to the fight?
Oh my god! Yeah, when they're talking to each other,
it was beautiful
because these are characters who even though each one of them wasn't interwoven with the other, at some point all of them have met this person and met that person, but this person met that. It was like 6 degrees of Jon Snow. and now he's
every moment of
and now he's Danny Oceaned them all beyond the wall.
Exactly.
And he's going out there to his heist is to steal a wit and bring it to Cersei Lannister, which why he thinks that will work. And that I don't know, but that brings me to my favorite line of the episode before was, there's 2 queens now? Yes. Do we have to convince the one with the dragons or the one that fucks her brother? Both.
So good.
So they go beyond the wall. They're all talking. I think my favorite person in this episode, and he's still my favorite character that's alive in Game of Thrones right now, Tormund Giantsbane. He finds out that Brienne's the one that beat the shit out of the Hound, and he falls in love harder.
Exactly.
He's like, I want to make beautiful babies with her. Could you imagine the size of them? They'd rule the world.
It's true. They would. Oh, my God.
And I love when he's looking at the Hound, and he's just like, I just hate gingers. And he's like, we're kissed by fire. We have that in common. And then they're having this nice like fun conversation. Gendry's coming to grips with the fact that these men who are now helping them sold him to a woman who was going to murder him for the sake of black magic. And
they were defending it still. And it was great.
But the best part is when the Hound is just like, you're whining. And he's like, I'm not whining. He's like, your lips are moving and complaints are coming out.
They're quivering or something like that.
And I was like,
that man over there was...
Qualming. That's it. Qualming. You're qualming. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God. And he's just like, I could have died. He died 6 times. You don't hear him complaining about it. And yeah, Barracks died 6 times. It's true. He wasn't bitching about it. But then they come to a point where, and I loved that they had a ton of red shirts. Like, so they had like these other men beyond the wall. They had these other wildlings that were there with them in their little raiding party. The scout goes out, and I felt like their red shirt was a spear. All of them had these long spears, and those are the guys that died. So he walks out into the frozen tundra. He kind of like disappears a little bit, and then we see like this shape just moving. And I just told Lauren, I was like, "It's a fucking bear," and she's just like, "Yeah," and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "That's a polar bear," and it comes running forward. I didn't know it was an undead polar bear. Now I know that
No.
the whole script for this episode leaked. I'm not that person. I'm not going
It
to
didn't
read
really
a
make sense though, still, because he should have been with a pack.
No, polar bears are solo. They're fucking solitary creatures, unless it's a mother with cubs.
Even if it's like undead like that.
Yeah.
Usually the undead. I feel like all the undead
Dude,
so
what-
far they've been showing.
So
has
are you
been
gonna
with a
waste?
pack.
Are you gonna waste like an easily killable like wit to just go walking around some lazy zombie to go walking around to keep your perimeter, or are you gonna use a fucking giant bear at your
Yeah,
disposal?
I mean, it makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
Come on, the Night King is nuts. He's not dumb. So
He's not dumb.
So
You know
this
that.
bear comes out, and I love it when Barrack lights his sword up, and they set the bear on fire,
Oh.
and the Hound shows his fear, and he doesn't
He
doesn't
does show
act.
that.
He doesn't act. The Red Priest is dying right in front of him, and he does absolutely nothing.
That was really bizarre for me to watch because you never saw him.
Yeah, you did. It's when he quit the Lannister army during the battle for Blackwater in season 2, and he said fuck the king, and he said fuck this war, and he walked away and he left, and that's when he grabbed Arya and saved Arya and went off on his merry way.
Yeah, but to seem like so cowardly and so scared. Like,
But he
you
did
know-
that. There was a man who was on fire during that
I know that.
battle who came running at him,
Oh.
and then that guy gets shot and he didn't act.
Oh, right.
So
okay,
some random
okay.
soldier was going to kill the Hound because he was on fire. He is that afraid of fire. He's that fearful of it. So when this bear's on fire, he still failed to act. And I thought it was still, it's good characterization.
Oh, definitely.
And then Jorah comes out of nowhere and stabs it with a fucking dragon glass dagger in the fucking head, and the thing goes down. And then we get a little bit more of like the conversations and stuff like that until they get to the point where they find a White Walker with a group of wits. They battle them. Jon kills the White Walker, and then we see all the wits turn to dust. So that's our first time that we learn that anytime a White Walker turns a dead body into a wit, if you kill that White Walker, you kill
All the wits
you
are
kill
dead.
the wit.
Which
So-
is huge.
Right, because
And it makes sense.
because Barrack will say it later when he said we don't have to kill any of them. We just have to kill him.
But it also makes sense as far as like the numbers.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
Right.
With the fight.
So now we basically have like this type of like, it's basically this normal sci-fi trope, or even like a vampire. Kill the leader, everything else goes back to normal. Just they're all dead. They all go back to being dead, and they get that realization. So they capture their wit, and the wit calls out to the rest of the undead, and they all have to race to this tiny rock in the middle of a frozen pond. And I thought that was really cool that the ice breaks and they're all stuck there.
And I like the fact that they took their time.
Right.
They took their time.
Well, I like the
being
fact
there
that they
by
actually
themselves
showed that
alone.
it was day, probably still late afternoon when they were there. Then it goes to night. Then it goes to day, and it probably goes to about mid-afternoon again. So they're there for about 24 hours. I guess that gives us enough time for Gendry to run back, send a raven. I don't know how fast ravens fly. Maybe they're fucking super fast. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Robin Hood Men in Tights. We'll fox them, and the fox is really fast. And of course, so they're stuck there, and I love how the Hound, it was probably one of my favorite things the Hound did. He picks up that rock and he chucks it, and it hits the one wit in the face,
Oh, so
and the
good.
jaw drops.
So good.
And he throws another bigger rock, and it just skates in front of them, and they realize the pond's frozen again. And you get that awesome battle, which had good action. There was no cuts. Instead, they panned it around all of them, almost like an Avengers shot.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
almost like where they're panning around them, they're showing each of them fighting.
And then it got tighter and tighter even.
right until
when
the
it got
point
to
that
the
they're
ledge.
up against the wall. They're rocking a hard place, and just as all hope is lost, out of nowhere, Daenerys and her 3 dragons
oh my
come
God, in all its glory.
barreling in, blasting the shit out of wits.
That was amazing.
And there was this moment where I saw the one White Walker grab that ice spear, and I audibly shouted, "No!" And Lauren's like, "Oh, no, no, no." We realized exactly what that spear was going to be for. And then the Night King fucking javelined that thing right into the neck of Viserion, the yellow dragon, and he fell and sunk into the pond and was killed. Everyone escapes except for John, who stays on the ground to fight off the wits to give them time to take off. And this is the only part of the episode I had a problem with. He falls into the water.
I agree.
Falls into the water, and he gets himself out, which that's fine. Fights his way out, and as he's crawling out, the White Walkers notice him, come back to go after him. All the wits are chasing him down, and mysteriously, out of nowhere, Cold Hands, Uncle Benjen, returns, just out of nowhere. It would have been helpful if earlier on he had said something along the lines of he just follows them, he keeps track of them, he keeps an eye on them. That way it would have made sense why he was watching anything. But here it's just he's just there.
Is that just a reason for him to be noble and die? Like another character just.
It was such a big thing in the show. Where is Uncle Benjen? Because his horse came back, but he didn't. So where is Uncle Benjen? And we didn't.
They dropped the ball.
Yeah,
I think they would acknowledge the fact. That
I think that's one of those things that's one of those things that's going to happen in the book, where we're going to get a whole lot more of Cold Hands and Uncle Benjen and his story, but they just don't have time to fit it into this shortened season and this shortened track of episodes that they're doing in their race to the finish.
But they had time, I think, to fit in something,
right?
Because that was a very large part of explanation, and as far as why and how John gets rescued from where he was, because it was almost an impossible situation for him to survive and get out of there, and he did. And like, the way it was done, it was just like, okay, the fact that he even survived still was hard fetch enough. It was
no, Uncle Benjen survived because he was killed.
Not so much him, but like John. I'm talking about John, coming out of the water and being on that fucking horse all the way back to the wall.
Well, I mean, he was dead by the time he got there. He was pretty much dead. He was hypothermic, and he is sickly, and he's in bed, and we find out.
And they took their time with that. I know.
And they're already sailing to King's Landing at that point, and we don't know how long he's been on the boat, but he wakes up. Daenerys is by his side, and he bends the knee without bending the knee.
Oh wait, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So they were on the ship already
on their way to King's Landing.
Oh, that does make sense then.
So they took his time healing.
Yeah.
He bends the knee, and they're on their way to King's Landing, and this is. The sexual tension is it's so in your face. It's just so in your face at this point.
Well, my favorite
that he's
part,
gonna fuck his auntie.
I don't know about that though. No, actually, I actually think they might not now.
Well, once she finds out that he is legitimate and the heir to the throne, she might have a thing or two to say about a thing or two.
I love the whole hand holding scene because you could see
she pulled away.
Exactly, and you could see the tension with that.
Well, she had that great line about heroes earlier, where she doesn't want cowards, but she also doesn't want heroes because heroes are stupid. Heroes always have something to prove. And Jon Snow, at that moment that he stalled the White Walkers to allow Daenerys to fly away,
she saw what a true hero is.
Yeah, he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot. Exactly. He's not going to live,
right?
Because people like that don't live. Littlefinger lives. I mean, as long as he.
Well, that's
stops
a whole other conversation,
right?
Because
that was that was another great talk-heavy scene that I really enjoyed, where Arya is talking about how her father used to watch them from up there, and she took the arrow,
it was beautiful.
And she shot that one arrow in it 20, 50, 75 times. She doesn't know. And then she finally hit the bullseye, and she heard the lone clap, and it was just Ned watching her. I love that.
That was beautiful.
It's times like that I understand why they don't do flashbacks, but I would have loved it if like while she was telling, we saw I just want to see Ned's face.
Bit.
I just want to see Ned's face again.
I know.
And I think we will, because we're getting more and more of Bran and his green seeing and his going back in time and stuff. I think we'll see more of Ned eventually.
We're gonna see Aquaman.
Yeah, possibly, probably not.
I kind of think so.
All in all, it was one of my favorite episodes this season, timeline notwithstanding, and obvious, Deus Ex Machinas just appearing out of nowhere to kill White Walkers and save Jon. Other than that, it was still a great episode. Great to see these. It
really was.
Great to see the 9 members of the Dirty Dozen together, just taking out White Walkers. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And next week is going to be epically crazy because they're going to be at King's Landing. They're going to show everybody who meets there the White, and of course,
did they announce the runtime?
It's 90 minutes. So this one was 72 minutes. Next one will be 90 minutes, and Sandor Clegane will meet his brother, the Mountain, and Gregor Clegane, and we will finally get that battle that we've always wanted.
It's going to be epic.
It's going to be epic. So that's really all the shit I watched this week, Jay. So
yeah, we had a pretty heavy first entry.
That's
in
fine.
This show, which is great.
I think I realized I enjoy just talking more on the air than I do doing segments and rushing to the next segment and stuff like that.
Well, honestly, there's no rush because we had a lot to talk about.
Exactly.
And it is what it is. So if you don't like it,
Get bent.
well, get bent. Cunt. Stay tuned.
So coming up next, Jay's going to have a little indie film that he wants to talk about, and I got a fake synopsis ready for you. Welcome back, and it's time to sit with Jay with his bourbon neat, his suspenders, his bow tie, square frame glasses, curly mustache, and his $80 haircut. And it's time to go deep inside of his indie corner.
Yes. So my film that I have is 2011's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Never saw the movie, but it was a movie name that I loved saying. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Isn't it?
It's almost like try to say it 3 times fast. See how far you get.
Crazy.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. The alliteration in it is just so good. But so what I think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is, I think it is a film about a theater company that is like an all-gay review theater company. And they are telling the story of Babes in Toyland, let's go with. And he plays the toy master in it. But he's a total emergent actor. So what he decides to do is he starts making live sex dolls. And he goes too far and they become sentient, almost like mannequin. And then they start a sex robot revolt.
Do they start fucking everybody and raping everybody?
To death.
To death.
To death. Jay.
Because their vaginas are so tight that it breaks people's penises.
Jay, I already said all gay
bleed
review,
out
so
the-
way to go and heteroing it up, you motherfucker. God, how homophobic are you, man?
I'm not that homophobic. Not at all, actually. I've been to many gay bars before.
You just went to now you're the guy who's like I have many gay friends. One gay friend. I mean, we talked once at a bar.
I have a gay uncle and a gay cousin.
It's true.
And we are very close, and I've taken them out to many places, and they've taken me out to places, and we've had some fun times. And
So what happens?
it is what it is.
As the creator of the sex robots who start the revolution, they see him as father, and he becomes the Tinker Tailor Soldier and spy for the human race. And he saves the human race by being that spy. We're going to keep Gary Oldman in the lead role, though.
Okay. Awesome. So this movie, as I said, came out in 2011.
He's so fabulous.
So fabulous. Oh, my God. His glasses are so thick. Oh, my
Jesus,
God.
Jay. God damn. Is that how you think every gay guy talks?
You started it.
No, I said one thing, man. You tried to do an entire sentence as if you were a gay.
All right, so this is directed by Thomas.
Send all your hate mail to @JDShort009. Send today. Send it right away.
Now who's being...
That's Captain Noah. Send all
stop
your pictures to dear old Captain Noah. Send today. Send them right away. You don't remember Captain Noah?
Wait.
What the fuck? That was the kids show. Captain Noah. He taught kids how to draw.
Fuck him. No.
What
I
the
don't know.
fuck? How do you not? It was on PBS. If anyone else...
I didn't watch many PBS shows.
If anyone else remembers Captain Noah, it was on in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
Reach out to me on Twitter @SuperMoviePod.
Yeah, Dave wants to reminisce on one
I do.
drawing exercises on PBS. Anyway, so this film was directed by Thomas Alfredson, and it is an early 70s Cold War espionage drama with a massively talented ensemble cast playing MI6 agents. I mean, I'm just going to go through it really quick. Gary Oldman, Colin Firth, Tom Hardy, Mark Strong, John Hurt, Toby Jones was in there, and, Benedict Cumberbatch. There was tons.
Still the funnest name to say in Hollywood.
Of guys. I know. He's
Benedict Cumberbatch.
He's amazing. So this movie had the guys. I mean, the British guys of all actors right now in this movie.
This film, I remember when it came out, I didn't see it because it just screamed Oscar bait.
It did. No, it did. And you know what? It didn't get the acclaim.
And wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch
bound that they thought it might, but abroad it did.
Wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch in a very similar movie several years later, about 2 years ago, called The Imitation Game?
Yes,
I understand that that's World War.
Seen it.
I understand that's on. Isn't it on? It's on Netflix now, so you might as well.
I know.
But that was World War II. This is Cold War.
Right, and I'm not exactly sure yet what film is better. I will watch the other one, and I will let you know. But I think overall, U.S. bound, The Imitation Game was more acclaimed than Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Mostly, I think, because this is such a British film. It's very dry. It's very bleak. It's very long. Gary Oldman is the lead. He is a guy that just, semi-retired. He's an agent that gets brought back into the organization to uncover a double agent. And, the cinematography is absolutely stunning. This guy, the cinematographer, he did Interstellar. He did Spectre. He's done some magnificent films that just look exceptional.
Not a fan of that Spectre.
Yeah, but the cinematography is nice.
I guess. I don't know.
And it has this cigarette stench to it, like oozing off the screen.
Everyone
It's
smokes
fantastic.
in it, so you literally smell cigarettes while you're watching it.
It's really good.
It's like watching any film from the 70s, even though this one was made in 2011.
But even still, this film does run a little bit on the long side and is very, very dialogue heavy. And I think it's gonna put some people to sleep pretty quickly if you are not into this kind of film. For me, I was engrossed, but I can see how some people might not get into it right off the bat. And it is a very taut movie that is effective and it works. And
Toit
it's
like
great.
Toiga. Toit like Toiga.
So, I mean, for me, this is, it's currently streaming on Netflix and it is a worth watch. Go look at it. Go find it. It's a movie that does fly under the radar.
What Jay means to say,
worthy.
it's worth a watch. If you're British, you like long, boring dramas, and you want to smell like a 1970s delivery room.
Fuck yeah. Go enjoy yourself.
I might actually check it out. I love Gary Oldman. I love all the actors in it. It's just one of those things that I know what I'm getting into, so I have to be in the frame of mind.
And it is that kind
that
of
I
movie.
want to
You're right.
that I want to watch
Absolutely.
it. And it's so rare that it's like I have the time to sit down and watch this 2 hour and 45-minute long-winded British drama about spies that are probably going to say a bunch of shit and drop a bunch of references and names from historical events that I might pick up half of them, and then I'm going to really just not care anymore and then just want to shut it the
It's
fuck
only
off.
2 hours, but it's a heavy 2 hours.
But it's a long 2 hours. 2 hours feels like 3 weeks when it's subject matter like that. All right, so coming up next, me and Jay got some beers to review for you. We're going to be reviewing 2 beers from Clown Shoes Brewing Company. So stay tuned for beer.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for beers. Welcome back to the beer segment. This week, me and Jay are going back to doing the same brewery. Me and Jay both got beers, both got. We both got. See, I catch myself in my own grammar.
Talking like me again.
I know. I catch myself in my own grammar mistakes. I need Grammarly, but just for like talking, like normal. You know, like Grammarly corrects typed word. I need something that like automatically corrects what you say.
Right.
Like the South Park V chip, where it just like shocks me when I fuck up grammatically. So me and Jay both have 2 beers from the same brewing company this week. We both have 2 beers from Clown Shoes. So the beer that I am drinking is Josh, the Guava King. It's a double Indian pale ale with guava. So it's a malty beverage that's brewed to flavor. Welcome to Flavor Town. Oh yeah. So obviously this is an IPA that has been brewed with guava. Now I'm always cautious when they say that something is brewed with some sort of fruit, because I don't know. I mean, I know there's always a lot of flavorings in beers. I know that that's what you get when you get craft beers. You get people who experiment, and Clown Shoes is definitely one of those places that experiments an awful lot with their beers. Like,
their mission is to produce beer without pretension while being free and a little crazy, and yet they are. I mean, their cans are pretty cool.
Yeah, no, they're definitely
Really
cool,
animated.
and they definitely let their beer masters just go nuts at times.
I think so.
You know where they're from?
Where?
Ipswich, Massachusetts. You remember we had that awful like line of Ipswich? Remember when you were doing the?
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
We had the Ipswich Brewing Company, because
Yeah.
you got those. You got that beer of the month club, and every beer we got from them was like absolutely terrible, just terrible. These, on the other hand, are not terrible. So this Josh the Guava King is actually so well balanced. Like, I mean, it definitely has some nice pine flavor up front, finishes off nice and dry and hoppy, and you do get a little bit of that sweet, guava flavor, but it's not overpowering. It's just there. It's just a hint of it, just a hint, just a touch, just a tip, just to give you, just to give your tongue just a little bit of a dance, a little bit of a tease.
Stay a little wet.
But I really dig this beer. I dig it a lot. I've had the beer you're drinking, and I dug that too. So I'm definitely going to be willing to check out some more Clown Shoes when I see them. Like I stayed away from Clown Shoes for so long because I had a couple beers from them that I was like burned by, but they were more malty beers. They were stouts and porters and stuff that I had.
Okay.
And some of the flavor profiles that they were coming up with some of those was just a little bit outlandish for me. But this beer I really like. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, Jay.
Awesome. So mine is the Space Cake number 7 India Pale Ale. It is 7.77% alcohol by volume. And this one is interesting because it does not taste that strong whatsoever. For some odd reason, the word creamy comes to mind. It's just a very... It's not creamy, but like how it just goes down so easily. It has a great, well-balanced mouthfeel.
Oh, yeah.
Little bit of pine, little dry, not too citrusy, but it just has...
creamy. Oh. You want a little bit of the cream down your throat, baby? Oh.
It's almost as when saying, just the way you said creamy is almost like when you say moist. Moist.
Moist. Yeah.
Moist.
You know, there's a guy that goes to my gym with a bumper sticker, just moist.
It just says moist.
Just says moist.
I would fucking purposely like rear end his
I'm like,
fucking car.
Come on, dude.
I'd rear end his car
You're ruining the word. You're ruining the power of the word.
by using it so casually.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why Americans don't say cunt as often as like
Oh, it's a
Aussies,
great word.
Yeah, as Aussies
Great word.
and the English do. Because if
you hear me say cunt, you know I'm pissed off.
Really?
And I say cunt in a very, not in a loud, like obnoxious, like fuck. It's more like, you fucking cunt. like if I'm like, I growl it like cunt.
You can't see Jay's eyes.
That's when I get angry. If I say that, I'm fucking pissed.
You can't see Jay's eyes, but Jay's eyes, like if you remember the end of Who Framed Roger Rabbit when he's like, and he talked just like this. That's what Jay's eyes just looked
I've been
like.
told that
He
from
was like,
some of my kids from work. I know. I can get that way.
See, I only ever say cunt like to comedic effect. I don't think I ever use it angrily, you know?
It comes out naturally, like, and for some odd reason. Not a Tom Hardy way. I'm not saying like that. No. But
We should take that word back, Jay.
No, I don't think so.
We should use the word like every other sentence on here.
Oh boy.
We should use it as
We're
an
gonna patent
adjective,
the word.
as an adjective, a noun, and a verb. So this cunty cunt motherfucker just came cunting up to me,
Yeah, let's stop saying fuck and start using cunt.
and I told him to get his cunt face out of mine.
Yeah.
Told him
Okay.
his breath smelled like a cunt. Oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Anyway,
Oh yeah. Sorry. So I'm really enjoying this beer. Oh boy, I think a 4 is a solid grade as well for me with this beer. I really do enjoy this. I'm really pleasantly surprised.
all right.
It's a unique
That's
IPA.
it's great. I just thought of a great word. Like, like when we were talking about Starship Troopers, the planet Klendaktu,
Right.
the Klendaktu cunt. That's what they should have called the brain bug, because that's the brain bug's face looked like a vajaj, a vajij, a vajij. The Klendaktu cunt, as we have come to call it. I'm glad you're enjoying that beer. I had it a couple weeks ago. It was one of those beers that like I bought once, I enjoyed it, and I actually bought it like the next time that I was in the store as well. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's definitely worthy of that for sure.
I'm gonna have to tell my dad not to listen to the beer segment and be like,
It's a little over the top. A little over the top for him.
how many C words can your ears take before your head explodes?
Yeah.
2? Oh yeah, we beat that minimum.
And plus, he's listening to us at like 7 a.m, probably.
Driving to
it's
work.
like-
He hits traffic and we start shouting the C word. I can't do that. My dad, my dad had a heart attack this year. I might have to beep out every time. Like we'll say the word cunt once, and then I'll just beep out the rest of it, and everyone will know what we're saying.
That's a lot of beeps.
I would love
We're gonna
it.
do a disclaimer before the
right.
beer segment for his father.
Warning, the see you next Tuesday will be used several times throughout this segment. We apologize to the ears that it offends, and to all of our Australian and English listeners, you're welcome. Oh, man. So coming up next, me and Jay just want to rap about some of the news stories. Lately, me and Jay have gotten away from doing news in favor of doing different segments and stuff like that. But lately, I've found it just kind of hard to come up with different main topics and stuff like that. We've been doing top 5s and like all this stuff. It all just kind of feels like, all filler, no killer. So me and Jay really like getting into movie news. It's part of the reason that we started the show, and now we've gotten away from it. I really just want to get back into it and get us talking about the news again. So
And granted, the news has been light from here and there at times, and that's going to happen. But honestly, everybody knows it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
It's something that, we're a weekly podcast show. We like to talk about it and stay hip on the current events. And
hip.
news.
You just sounded like a cunty 40-year-old.
Hip. Like a hipster.
Like a hipster, yeah. He's saying hip. Yeah, but I like actually reacting to news as well, giving our opinions, speculations, other shite like that. So stay tuned for news. And now it's time for news. So this is the first time me and Jay have done news in a while. So we actually just came with a bunch of different news stories. I don't know what his news stories are. He's vaguely aware of what my news stories are. So we're going to be talking about Jay. So Jay, any news that you brought?
Movie Pass. Movie Pass has dropped heavily.
That's right. They just started their marketing push. It's actually been around for a while.
No, it has been around for a while, but the fact that it's brought headlines is the fact that they dropped down their monthly rate to $10 a month. $10 a month to see essentially one movie every day for a month for $10 in the theater.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
And Wes at VIAVHS signed up for it as well. I asked him a bunch of questions, and once he was like telling it to me, that's when I was like, "Oh, I'm going to send this to you." You were already aware of it when I sent it to you. It's not like you were unaware, but it's an interesting thing, and I'm not sure if I would utilize it to the fullest extent. So for me, like as I said at the beginning, I get busy a lot. Like I work a lot. I come home and I got a lot of stuff to do, and then on top of that, I'm doing the podcast and I'm doing no offense to Jay, but the bulk of the work when it comes to the podcast.
It's very true.
So
I always say that.
I'm pretty busy most nights, so I would probably get out to the theaters once a week, which in the end it still makes it kind of worth it because it's $9.99 right now. The second it jumps to $15.99, it no longer becomes worth it to someone like me. But what this model is banking on, taking a hit up front. They're losing money right now. That's 100% for sure. What they plan to do, and what always works out, is that because of the low price, because of what it promises, you get a bunch of people flooding in that start doing it, like Jay Short and Wes from VIAVHS. Then what happens is, once you get used to the service, you stop utilizing it as much as you did. It's the same thing that happens when you start with Netflix and you have Amazon Prime and stuff like
but
that.
as long as I have this podcast, I'm going to be using it.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of people who have Amazon Prime and use it for the shipping and stuff like that, but never go onto the streaming service. And vice versa with Netflix. There's a lot of people who have Netflix and they've had Netflix for a long time, and I guarantee you most of those people don't even know that they're
Still
paying.
order the DVDs.
Right. No, those people don't even know that they're paying $4.99 a month for that to order a DVD, but they don't utilize it. They haven't gone onto their account to cancel it. I'm sure there's a ton of people out there who have done that, who are still doing it and don't even realize that they have to go on and cancel that stuff. Or there's a ton of people who don't have a UHD TV, but are for some reason are paying the $11.99 or $12.99 a month for UHD streaming from Netflix, even though they can't utilize it and aren't utilizing it. So the same thing is going on with Movie Pass. They get a bunch of people in who utilize it up front, but then in the end they wind up not utilizing it as much. And then you have your outlier people who utilize it a lot, but the rest of the people that are paying into it are basically paying for those few people's movie tickets.
So AMC has been the one distributor that has been very vocal about they are currently supporting it, but they are essentially in the long-term effect trying to get out of the contract that they have with them because they think it's a bad business model. They obviously think it's a bad business model as far as it's not going to make any money, and essentially it's going to burn, and they're going to close down shop, and then once all the customers, like myself, has to start paying normal ticket prices again, we're going to be disgruntled, and the AMC brand and name is going to be tarnished because it's associated with that. So that's essentially what they are worried about.
Right.
That's essentially all, though.
But also that,
and I get that to some degree.
What we didn't mention was you're buying a movie ticket, one a day. It's $9.99 a month. You get one a day, but it doesn't include special showings, special screenings. You cannot
repeat a movie.
You cannot repeat a movie. You can use it for opening night. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
You can use it for opening night, but you can't use it for IMAX. You can't use it for 3D. Any type of special viewing. Right.
And you can't order it ahead of time. You have to go to the theater.
You have to go to the kiosk
and buy it.
Which for me is almost like a deal breaker because I like to order my tickets online through Fandango. I like to go to the theaters where I get to pick my seats, and I like to do it for the big movies 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance.
Right.
So now Movie Pass forces me, like when Star Wars comes out,
it's difficult
in December.
It's difficult. I know.
I am going to have to pick a showtime and then show up there. I probably won't even make it opening night. Not going to happen for you opening night.
But when you really think about it, and if you are a movie geek, and for the most part, I usually watch
1 to 2 a week. You're at the theater. 1 to 2 a week.
No. At the best. 1 and 2 a week. I was gonna say probably generally 5 a month. That's already worth it, right?
No, that's 100% is.
I mean, come on. I mean, even if I'm gonna be seeing a movie slightly out of my way, like if I'm gonna have to go out of my way to go to the theater to buy the tickets ahead of time, even it's still worth it. It's still worth it.
No, you're right. It is.
I mean, come on. You can't look over that fact. I mean. I might start drinking at the movie theater again because the movie theater beer prices are so expensive. I stopped drinking at the
I'll be
theater.
honest, I really don't see this thing kind of lasting. I don't see it having any type of lasting
I don't
power.
think it's going to have any kind of longevity, and I'm fine with that. But I think for now, I'm intrigued enough, I don't think there's any kind of contractual
What I'm looking forward
obligations for me
to
stay with.
is when home streaming services have movies in the theater that you can stream at home for a decently reasonable price. Even if it's $50, that's almost reasonable enough if you get enough people to come over, split the bill with you, and then watch a film. You get 5 people over to watch it. That's $10 each. Okay, it's a bit much. You get 10 people over to watch it though for a $50 movie that's in the theaters right now. Everybody's happy.
Sure.
The studio's making their money. Your cable company gets to keep all their taxes and fees that they throw on the end of your bill, and you get to have a bunch of friends over and watch a film that's current in the theaters, and you get to be comfortable while doing it. That's the model that I'm really waiting for, because I would do that in a fucking heartbeat, 100%. There's no way I would ever go to the theater again. But Movie Pass, Jay's going to keep us abreast on it. He's going to let us know how it works out.
I will.
What he's using it for, and
I'm gonna include it. I'm gonna talk about it every single time I see a movie and briefly bring it up.
And if everybody wants to help out Super Movie Brothers, I want to reach out to Movie Pass. I want to reach out to a rep. I do have some questions that I would love to ask a rep and do like a little bit of an interview on air, something we've never done here. So if everyone listening can tweet to @MoviePass on Twitter, and let's see if we can get someone set up for an interview, because I would love to talk to them. I know Wes from VIAVHS was chomping at the bit to talk to somebody about it, because he's kind of trying to get in the ground floor of it like you are. And if it's something that really speaks to everybody, they get to come on and have kind of like an advertisement and throw it to the listeners, and maybe something people might benefit from.
Exactly. Sure.
So Jay, do you have any other news stories?
Disney is trying to create their own Netflix and do like a streaming device.
Yeah, I mean, not even trying. They're doing it.
That is very confirmed.
They are going to pull. There's no confirmation when it'll come out or anything like that. But Disney does plan to do their own streaming service. Pull all of their films from Netflix and other streaming services.
And Netflix is in negotiations and talks with Disney
to keep Marvel and Star Wars.
Keeping Marvel and Star Wars.
Right.
And now, as far as the original programs, such as Daredevil and
their existing properties
like
that are licensed by Netflix, I believe.
But in the future, still...
Well, after my review of Defenders, maybe it might benefit Disney by taking it back.
They might reopen the negotiation table up.
But Disney already signed like a contract with Netflix for them to carry some of their stuff. We saw that starting in 2017. That's when Rogue One came on, Civil War, Doctor Strange, stuff like that. Previously, Disney had their stuff going to Stars. They still do have some of their stuff going to Stars. But Disney obviously wants to keep everything as in-house as they possibly can. We already saw them looking at other venues for their TV shows. We know that the new Warriors TV show with Squirrel Girl is going to be on Freeform. The Cloak and Dagger TV show is going to be on Freeform. We know that I believe there is another series that's in development. I don't quite remember what it is. But then there's also the Runaways TV series that is obviously going to be on Hulu. So already they've started taking their characters and going elsewhere with them. And maybe those characters don't really speak to Netflix and their audience and what they have for their Netflix universe of Marvel stuff. But Marvel's already been shopping their stuff around elsewhere. Now, if they start their own streaming service, I don't know whether they will pull all that stuff over there. I highly doubt it. I think all that stuff will be properties of Hulu and Freeform and Netflix. But any of the content that they produce in theaters or their own home video will be on that streaming service. But the question is, what will be on there? Will stuff that's locked in the Disney Vault be on there? Because if it's not, what's the point?
No, it will. But I think they're eventually going to try to casually branch out to more bold properties and bold feature films and series as well. I mean, they're going to have that Disney banner, and they have the financial backing to produce whatever the fuck they want. Just like Amazon and Netflix.
So I don't know if you know this about Disney, but last year, Disney made half the money in Hollywood. Just half of it. They made half of it.
Which is a lot.
Don't worry about fact checking that number. It's true. They made half the money last year. They're making 2/3 of the money this year.
Well, they've been slowly buying everything.
Right.
They're trying to practically own everything about
But
Hollywood.
here's the slippery slope that I worry about. Let's say Disney does this, and it's successful because the Disney properties are successful. That's why their streaming service would be successful. What's to stop Sony from saying, I want to pull all my shit from all the streaming services and all the premium channels, and I want to throw out my own premium. I want to throw my own streaming service out. What's to stop Warner Brothers from doing it? The problem is, what winds up happening is we start losing content in other ways.
They don't have the brand name for that, though.
But that doesn't mean that they won't see what's successful and try to do it themselves, even if they fail at doing it. Disney has the money to set up a service like this. I don't know if the rest of them do, but if they see that Disney's successful, they might start throwing money at a service like that to do it. So the slippery slope becomes, where does it stop? When do, I'm willing to pay $9.99 a month to get Disney streaming, if that's the way I get those movies and stuff like that, especially because I have a kid. If you got kids, I mean, it becomes worth it. And I would still pay for Netflix and other streaming services that I have because I pay for an extremely small cable package. I get 45 channels. I don't get a whole lot. HBO is the only premium channel that I get. So in this cable cutter like future that we're heading towards, where does it stop for streaming services though? Because if I'm paying for Netflix and I'm paying for Disney, Amazon Prime, Hulu, but then I'm also paying for, in the end, Warner Brothers and Sony and, MGM, Lionsgate, I mean, fuck it. They all start doing their own streaming services. Now, for me to get all the content that someone like me and you would be interested in suddenly becomes very expensive and might as well have been a fucking cable bill in the end. So that's my worry, is like, what's the slippery slope? Where does it all end? I think for the cable companies to survive, they need to start allowing people to start picking their channels and their content the way that you can do with these streaming services. Right, and it'll come eventually. They're just slow to change. And for all these streaming services, at some point you're going to probably see a whole bunch of them crop up, more so than we already have. I mean, a bunch of them have already popped up. And then you're going to see them crumple down. And then the smoke will clear and we'll have the
normal shake for a while. And then before you know it, something else is going to pop up.
It's an interesting future for how we digest film, for sure. We don't know a whole lot about the Disney streaming service, and I'm sure as they finalize things and they actually have a workable model going up, we'll get an idea of it. And it'll probably be on the cheap in the beginning. So you'll probably want to jump in on it on the ground floor. All right, so Jay, moving on to other news stories that we got this week. These are the ones that I am bringing to the table. So this one's just a personal one for me. Super Troopers has a release date that's been announced. It's 4/20/2018. I'm one of those people that I wanted this to happen the second they had to start crowdfunding it. If some studio picked it up and they gave them a bigger budget than what they had to begin with, and I probably wouldn't have been on board with it because it would have gone too far. It wouldn't have been the same.
Have they filmed yet?
Yeah, it's already been.
Okay.
They've already filmed. So what I'm hoping is that when this comes out, I'm just hoping that the Broken Lizard guys stick to what worked in the first one. Because if you watch Broken Lizard movies, that they've had two really good ones. I love Beer Fest and I love Super Troopers. But other ones like Slam and Salmon, Club Dread, not so much. So I'm hoping, their margin for failure is just as high as their margin for success. I'm hopeful for this. I just thought it was interesting that, it's going to be coming out next year, but they've been promoting it and talking about it for the past 3 years, just about.
I think it's going to do pretty well.
It's crowdfunded, which is kind of cool.
It is really cool, and I think they're gonna do a lot of good promotion leading up to it, and I think it's gonna have like one of those. I'm not gonna. Oh God, I don't want to say this.
It's well loved, so I think.
But Sharknado.
You think it's
how
gonna be like that?
Sharknado has like this kind of weird cult following? I think they're gonna try and build something like that.
I hope not. No, I hope they just stick it at 2 and leave it at that. I wonder if Brian Cox is coming back. I wonder how Brian Cox, how did they manage to even pay Brian Cox?
He fell off the radar again. He had a comeback, and then he fell off again.
But I mean, that's like a big actor to have in your first feature film for true. Broken Lizard.
No,
it's pretty crazy.
Everybody knows him. Everybody knows what the hell he looks like.
And I loved him in that. I loved it. So I love Super Troopers. I have big hopes for this one. Not big expectation, just big hopes. I just want good things for these guys. I don't know what it is about them. I've always enjoyed, their films. I've had a ton of fun. And I say growing up, like from college age on, watching Super Troopers and Beer Fest. I just love those two films, and I want this one to be a success. So I'm hoping they can make that happen. All right, this one I thought was great. Jay, do you remember the Shaft movie back in the mid '90s?
Of course.
With Samuel L. Jackson.
Bow, chicka, bow.
It's coming back with a sequel.
Oh baby.
Yeah, it is Shaft, and his son will be played by Jesse T. Usher.
Is
this something?
This is the guy from Lethal Weapon, or is it? Oh, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes.
Right. He was supposed to be Eddie Murphy's son or something like that, or
Something
is he
like
just like a remake? I don't know. I'm not exactly sure, but he was a part of that revamp show that failed. And okay, whatever. I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
He played Dylan Hiller in Independence Day Resurgence. So that's, he's Captain Stephen Hiller's son in that. I don't see anything about any type of TV show.
He's a good-looking
Beverly
kid.
Hills. He is, but is this something that we need? Do we
No,
do
we
we
don't.
need Shaft to come back?
We don't need Shaft to come back. We don't. Not right now.
No.
I think in a few years I wouldn't mind it, but I think right now for some odd reason it just doesn't hit me the right way.
Yeah, obviously Shaft had its time. It was the height and the most production quality that was ever thrown at any type of blaxploitation film from the 70s. And we got things that kind of poked fun at that art. We got Black Dynamite. We got,
Sure.
It was almost like a grindhouse film, but maybe like the upper echelon of grindhouse films.
Yeah.
And then they did a remake, a god-awful remake. That one with Samuel L. Jackson was terrible. Is this something that people are clamoring for? Am I missing something? Like, is there a deep want for...
You'd be surprised.
You know who I want to do a Shaft film? I want Quentin Tarantino to do a fucking Shaft film. You know why? Because she's Brühlhilde von Shaft. And he's Django. And they are the grandparents or great-grandparents of Shaft from the 70s.
Yeah.
That's who I want to do a Shaft film. I want Quentin Tarantino to do a Shaft film.
Maybe whoever's going to helm this property has...
Have you ever seen the YouTube videos of Quentin Tarantino talking to black people?
Oh my God. There's actually like videos.
Yeah, he can't do it. He slips into like this white jive thing that is just like, it's cringeworthy. You're just like, oh my God, the fact that you try so hard is just so racist into itself.
Which is really interesting because like he has a lot of black parts in his films mostly. And
in one video, Jamie Foxx is like rolling his eyes harder than I've ever seen anyone roll their eyes. And Samuel L. Jackson too. It's a great. If you haven't seen it, go watch a video. It's just called Quentin.
But even still,
Quentin Tarantino can't talk to black people.
I think any white man put under the spotlight, you and I would both struggle.
No, Jay, just talk like you. It's not hard. Just talk like you.
I haven't seen these videos. I'm just trying.
He puts on an accent and he puts on like.
It's like a whole pony show kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Just talk like you. That's all you have to do.
I work with predominantly black.
I know. I worked with you. I worked with you
in my job for the last 10 and a half years.
That's how we met.
I mean,
But yeah, I would love to see a Quentin Tarantino Shaft film. I
mean, that would be fucking cool.
I think like that's
it would be cool.
Yeah, if you're gonna bring Shaft back, you bring it back in a positive light. You don't bring Samuel L. Jackson.
Maybe they are. But maybe they
I
are.
don't
You
think
don't
so,
know.
dude.
You just don't know.
It is a sequel to a shitty mid-90s film.
We'll see.
I
think it's going to be interesting.
Speaking of shitty mid-90s shit coming back.
Shit.
Speaking of shitty mid-90s shit coming back. 2 sequels are planned for Bad Boys. They haven't even finished filming Bad Boys 3, and they've already signed a deal for Bad Boys 4.
Yeah, so this is news to me because I'm a little surprised. I'm a little bit surprised. Jerry Bruckheimer is trying to do a Top Gun sequel that's confirmed with Tom Cruise, and I think that's going to be a failure. Along with that, I think he's trying to bring back the Bad Boys films And I could see that. Of all the films for him to come back with, I could see him doing a Bad Boys 3.
No director is
But
signed.
not Top Gun 2.
No director is signed to Bad Boys 3, which is dubbed Bad Boys for Life.
First of all, they gotta change that fucking title. And I feel like they need to strip it down. They gotta like bring it back down.
Me and you-
and do like something. The director of who's that? Oh my god, who's that director of?
True Detective.
No,
Bad Boys. Just take the characters out of True Detective and put Michael Lowry. Just put them in their places and just film that and just call it Bad Boys for Life. I would absolutely love that. I could see Michael Lowry just talking about how it's not even a town. It's a memory of a town and the town's fading.
I would really love for F. Gary Gray to direct this movie because like we both love Law Abiding Citizen. It's one of those movies.
I enjoy Law Abiding Citizen. I don't love it.
I don't love it either, but like I enjoy it a lot.
You throw the word love around a whole lot for a man who has commitment issues.
That is true.
I love films, but never women. I only fuck them and then I leave them.
But his late great one was
Give me that dick.
Straight Out Compton. Give it to me deep and true.
Oh, deep and true. Jesus. Are you flying an arrow? May your arrow fly deep and true. Jay Short. You know nothing, Jay Short.
Hit that G-spot, son.
I love how that's how we both think that that Ygritte talks. We both give her a deep voice. You know nothing, Jon Snow. And then you just literally said your own name in that voice as if you were fucking someone. So you basically just said you were fucking a guy with that voice. Just put it deep and true in, Jay Short.
Well, then it'll be in the ass, and there's only one way in, one way out. All right.
All right.
So
anyway,
yes, F. Gary Gray is my choice for the director.
Why? But
for the third.
Why are these happening? Why are these done?
I don't know, because they fucking make money and they need money. That's
I
all.
guess so. I mean, we both know that Hollywood is rife with reboots and long-awaited sequels just lying in the wind to fuck everything up. I don't think any of them have really been profitable in a good long time. I think Evil Dead was a good remake, but not a great remake. It was okay. I still prefer the originals. There's nary been a remake that I've enjoyed more than the original. It's seems to be a very tough thing to come by. All right, so next in news, Shazam is the next DC movie to shoot. Is that the direction to go? Shazam? I'll be honest. As far as for comic book guys, we know who Shazam is. It doesn't have the star power because they haven't cast Shazam.
He's got a funny name though.
Yeah, well, I guess he's actually Captain Marvel, but because of the Marvel universe, DC has recently changed his name to Shazam because that's the word that the 10-year-old Billy Baxton says to get struck by lightning and gain his powers to turn into Captain Marvel or Shazam. So the movie will be called Shazam. I'm not sure if they have anybody cast as Shazam yet, but it's next to film, which seems kind of weird. Like, shouldn't the Batman be the next to film? Like all these movies they have announced, the Batman, Batgirl, run by Joss Whedon, Nightwing, Shazam, Black Adam. I'm sorry. What about the Flash film? What about they have the Aquaman film. That's like, why? In what order are these things going? And is Shazam the film that we really need for a studio that's kind of sputtering right now? You know, it's not.
It's not the smartest choice,
No.
but it's not the worst. I think they're trying to get The Rock, from what I last heard.
No, so they had a script for Shazam. It was a pretty long script, and Black Adam was going to be the main villain in it. It was what they decided to do was instead split those into two films, Shazam and Black Adam. So you might get cameos and appearances by The Rock as Black Adam in the Shazam film, but he will not be in it nearly as much as he was supposed to be because they're saving that for his solo
Marketing tool, essentially, for this entry for Shazam.
You got it.
I mean, boy, really. I don't know. We'll see.
It's already a tough property to sell, but so was Wonder Woman, and they sold that. But here's the thing.
So was Doctor Strange.
Unless you're Nick from Epic Film Guys, who loves Man of Steel, who loves BVS, hated Suicide Squad, which everyone does, and I believe enjoyed Wonder Woman, but not to a great extent. But if you're like everyone else in the normal population, they've had four stinkers. If Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, and then they came out with Wonder Woman, which is a good film. A good film. They have one good film, and they're gonna hang their hat on Shazam now. So that's the next one.
Do you think that's the right move?
No, absolutely not. It's a terrible move.
Maybe they're trying to course correct, change things around.
I think they're trying to do something. I think you're right.
The whole trilogy thing.
I think what they're trying to do is course correct and go with something that it's a little lighter and they can have a lot of fun with.
Right. What I think is they're going to try and do the whole Deadpool thing. Try to make something slightly under $100 million.
They're not going to go that far with it, with comedy anyway.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as far as budget and scale. They're going to try and keep it under $100 million, and they're going to try to make it fun, make it exciting, make people want to go out to theaters and see this and turn a profit, and then essentially see how that goes, and then try to build up funds again to start over again and try to revamp this whole DC universe up again.
I'm not sure they're trying to revamp. I just think they're trying to.
In time, they will.
It seems like they're trying to diversify maybe their portfolio, if anything.
A little bit.
Yeah, because
I don't think they should go too far, but a little bit, I don't mind.
All right, Jay, we come to our main story, man. So it seems that Disney and Lucasfilm have announced that their next A Star Wars story, their next solo film property, is going to be Obi-Wan. It's going to be an Obi-Wan-centric story.
Yes.
So I want to know,
that is all we got.
Right, that's all we got. So you, who is a Star Wars fan, like tangentially, you enjoy them, but you don't.
I'm a Ewan McGregor fan.
But you don't love them. You don't love them.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts? Because I'll be honest, I can probably go back and find the audio from a year ago, months ago.
No, personally, I've been championing this for a long time.
I was saying where I probably agree with you and said that I really wanted this.
But what about a year later? Do you still want that?
No.
See, that's what I'm hearing a lot more nowadays. I think you're right. A year ago, people wanted that. Now, all of a sudden, people are now a little bit more hesitant about a standalone for Obi-Wan for some odd reason. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they just didn't jump on it early enough, or maybe now they just realize they just want something a little bit more interesting, a little bit more different. But I still think that this Obi-Wan property, the standalone, is going to be unique enough and different enough for it to stand alone. Now, it's not going to be a Rogue One level type of story or film, and I think it would be an interesting change up for them, but I would love to see it, and I think they have to bring back Ewan McGregor. I mean, he is, still ripe and in his
he's moist for the picking.
He's moist for the picking right now. I mean, he's still top-notch actor right now, and he still looks great, and I think he can definitely deliver. So we'll see.
So real quick, before I give my thoughts on it, I want to switch over to Wes from VIAVHS, who has pre-recorded a response to this news story, as you and I, before recording this episode, recorded some thoughts on the Mighty Ducks to appear in his. So we're having like a little bit of a crossover without having each other on the show. So make sure that you check out VIAVHS this week, where they talk about the Mighty Ducks. Me and Jay have a quick 3-minute blurb that's on there, and Wes is going to let us know what he thinks of the Obi-Wan news. So here that is.
Bring it, Wes. This is VIAVHS.
What up, super movie bros? It's your boy Wesley Younger, your Podfix comrade from the VIAVHS podcast, and I'm here to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everybody's been wanting to know, what's the third standalone film? Now we know it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's getting his own movie. How do I feel about this? Indifferent, really. There's some positives, there's some negatives. Overall, I'm not crazy about the standalone idea. Even though Rogue One wasn't mind-blowing, I like that they were doing something original. They were exploring other facets of the Star Wars universe outside of the saga films. That was really, really cool. But here we are. We're going to get 2 standalones in a row. Let's start with the positive stuff. I'm definitely more excited about Obi-Wan than I am Han Solo. That's a whole nother topic, but there's some interesting things that they can explore here with Obi-Wan Kenobi. First of all, the idea of Ewan McGregor getting a chance to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in a potentially good film is something to get excited for. There's no guarantee this film is going to be any good, but I have a feeling it's going to be at least adequate. And to see him outside of the prequels reprising that role is something that I'm hopeful for, because Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan was probably the best part of the prequel, so I'm excited about that. The moment he realizes Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, we've never seen that in any form of Star Wars media. When he boards the Death Star in A New Hope and they face off, he already knows Darth Vader's Anakin. So at some point in time he came to that realization, and I want to see that moment on film. That's going to be kind of cool. Seeing as a Star Wars character piece, I think it's going to be heavily Obi-Wan centric, so I think that's going to be really cool. Just kind of explore that character, what he's going through, the grief that he has, the regret that he has, for letting the Jedis fall the way they did, for training Anakin. If he comes to that realization, what he'll have to go through in his mind and process, that's pretty interesting, and also potentially fix some plot holes. Why does Darth Vader not know his son is hanging out on his home planet? Maybe there's a reason behind that. I hope it doesn't get too convoluted, but if they have a really intelligent way of explaining it and it doesn't mess with canon too much, then I'm all for it. So that would be really cool. And also exploring, his training that Yoda mentions in Revenge of the Sith. He has training for him. Seeing him explore the Force and learn about Force Ghosts and maybe talk with Qui-Gon Jinn. That'd be really, really cool. So that's some good ideas. Some bad things. It's not needed or original. We know about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't think his arc really needs to expand beyond what it was in the prequels or the originals. I think his arc is right in front of your face. But we're going to get it anyway, so might as well deal with it. It massages canon in a way I'm not comfortable with. Like Rebels and Clone Wars, I enjoy that stuff. But they kind of water down the product a little bit. And there's the originals are going to have so much added context now. I don't know. We'll see about that. Either way, I'm going to be there open tonight to see this film. I'm just going to say Obi-Wan Kenobi, Osama bin Laden, parallels. They're both hanging out in the desert. Okay, they're waiting to train young radical insurgents into an ancient religion to carry out a terrorist attack against what they perceive as an evil empire. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. People could take that with a grain of salt if they like. I'm just saying that's what it is. But yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm going to be there. Like I said, I'm going to watch this movie no matter what. I'm indifferent, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully I'm proved wrong. Maybe, it might be the best Star Wars film of all time. I highly doubt it, but you never know. So thanks for giving me a second to preach on your show. You can find VIAVHS at VIAVHS on Twitter. You can find our podcast, VIAVHS Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that fun stuff. So thanks again. Hope y'all have a great night, and may the Force be with you.
Yeah, and I agree with Wes. While Obi-Wan is a favorite character, while Obi-Wan is something we want, it's like we want to know more about. Coming as somebody who is a huge Star Wars fan, and back in the day, I used to read everything that was EU, J for you, that means expanded universe. All of that has been wiped away. But the problem with the EU was that the EU had so many stories, so many comics, so many things that they all tried to fit into the timeline that it wound up becoming so jam-packed that they had to move things around. This happened here, this happened there. This said this, which negates that, so we need to come up with some sort of retcon that then makes both of those two things possible at the same time, even though they contradict one another. So things start becoming, there became this hierarchy to the EU where things written by George Lucas were law. Things below that he produced were even more long. Things that were part of the books were over things that were in the comics. Things that were in the comics were over things like fan fiction, etc. Then there were some things that they made, like the holiday special and the Ewoks movies, which got stricken from the record, and never shall we speak of them again. So it became this jam-packed thing that when Disney took over the property and wanted to start telling their own stories, they realized if we try to fit into this timeline, we're only going to hamper ourselves with the stories that we can tell. We want to tell our own original stories. So all of that stuff, stricken from the record, all of it moves over to legends now. It's all stuff that maybe happened. You choose whether it happened or not. Either way, if we contradict it, it's because it was a legend and not an actual thing that occurred. So we come to this now, and now what we're doing is the only thing that's in canon right now are the books that are being written currently, the comic books that are being written currently, the films that have all come out, and the cartoons that have all come out, Clone Wars and Rebels.
All right.
So they have a much smaller field to play with, and they can fit things in here or there. But here's my problem with telling stories from characters that were from the original trilogies. You're fucking with them at this point. We have the characterization of Obi-Wan from the prequels, and we have the characterization of Obi-Wan in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and a little bit in Jedi. So now you're going to tell a story where previously the story was he's been on Tatooine watching over Luke, but now we're going to tell an entire story that takes place between Episode 3, supposedly, and Episode 4. So where the fuck does Obi-Wan go? And what kind of adventure can he have?
That's kind of what I'm excited about. I want a completely different movie.
Right.
I want like an indie movie.
But here's what I worry about. So we have the Han Solo story, right? That's going to be coming out next year after Episode 8. So the problem with that is, you know that Disney is going to make him a lovable scoundrel. They're going to make him a redeemable character.
Definitely.
That's not who Han Solo was. He was an absolute fucking pirate, dickhead, money-grubbing piece of shit up until he met Princess Leia and Luke, and he gets guilted by them and Chewbacca into changing his mind.
Maybe they'll have supporting characters
I don't believe
try
so.
to keep him in balance, perhaps? I'm not exactly
I
sure.
don't want him to be in balance. I want him to be a scoundrel asshole.
Straight up
Right.
Okay.
Because the whole point is he doesn't change who he is as a person until he joins the rebellion. So if you go back and you tell a Han Solo story before all that and you try to make him a likable character, you do the character a disservice. You do the same thing with Obi-Wan, who is a Jedi who's in exile, who's taken upon the mission to watch over Luke. And now you're going to say, nah, he had this whole other fucking adventure that happened. He's not who you thought he was. He's who we're telling you he is now. And and I get it. Disney gets to make it up as they go along. They get to change the story as they want. They get to add the new things that they want. But for me, Obi-Wan being in exile in the same way that Yoda was in exile makes perfect sense. They both kind of lost their respective battles in the fact that Yoda literally lost to the Emperor, and Obi-Wan lost a student, lost who he was, lost what he was. He was no longer a Jedi when he was out there on Tatooine anymore. So for him to go off on this adventure, then it kind of changes the characterization of Obi-Wan a little bit to where he's now not a person who exiled himself. He went off and had this whole adventure, between stories. And then if this is successful, what's to say like they're not going to do like Obi-Wan 2, Electric Boogaloo, Obi-Wan 3.
Exactly.
All right.
I was waiting to lead into this. I actually think that they have a potential trilogy of sorts.
Exactly. But I don't want that. I just don't feel like it fits into it. Here's
I think
I'm
of
not
all the characters and all the properties, they have the potential to do it with him. Of all people, they can do it with him.
Here's the thing. It's not that I'm arguing that it couldn't work. It could. You probably could tell the story in a way that still leads Obi-Wan right up to where he was. But here's what Disney's going to do. They're going to do exactly what they did with Rogue One. And Darth Vader watched the Tantive 4 take off. And then literally, if you follow the timeline, it's like 20 minutes later that he's on the Tantive 4. And Leia's just like, well, I was on a peaceful mission. He's like, what he should have said was, now in the current timeline, fuck you, bitch. I literally just watched you steal those plans and fly the fuck away. Are you going to lie to my face and tell me you're on a diplomatic mission? Get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? They've kind of messed with the timeline a little bit. And what they're going to do with Obi-Wan is it's going to... where this Obi-Wan movie or trilogy or whatever winds up happening is going to end. It's going to end with the exact moment that he walks up and does the crate dragon crawl and saves Luke from the Sand People. That's where it'll end. And everyone will be like, oh, that's that moment that he saves Luke. And he will have just gotten back to Tatooine at that point.
That'd be pretty cool.
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
I don't know. Honestly, all they've announced was that they're trying to plan an Obi-Wan movie.
Right.
That's is it.
This Obi-Wan movie could all take place on Tatooine, and he may have never left.
Like, we have no idea. They don't even have any idea what the hell they want to do.
So what I'm getting to, it's not so much that they're making an Obi-Wan movie. It's not so much that they're making a Han Solo movie and they're messing with this stuff. Honestly, do whatever the fuck you want with the characters that you spent a shit ton of money on.
As soon as fucking Disney bought this is exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Right. And now the proposed movies after this are Boba Fett and Yoda.
You're just going to have to suck it up and
they want to do Yoda.
No Yoda.
No, they want to do Yoda. They want to do a Boba Fett and Yoda movie after this.
Can't do Yoda.
Are the rumors. So all right, my argument isn't that don't do a Han Solo movie, don't do an Obi-Wan movie because you mess with those characters. That's fine. You're your characters. You spent billions of dollars on buying them. Do whatever the fuck you want with them. If you want Obi-Wan jerking off into Yoda's mouth on the fucking beaches of Zegama or whatever, do it. I don't care. I'll probably not watch your movies anymore, but
I'll watch it.
Of course you will. But do it. But instead, why do that? Because now you're incestuously fucking your universe over and over again. You're using the same characters that have already been characterized previously, and you're recharacterizing them and fitting them into this current story.
It's tricky, especially if they want to keep these episodes going.
Exactly. So now you're trickily trying to fit this story in between that story. Fuck all that. Tell new stories in the same universe with new characters and put them around maybe familiar events. But tell new stories. Stories.
Dave, this links into the whole streaming device that Disney is trying to do.
Why?
I think they're trying to start their Star Wars little universes.
Yeah, well, there's been rumors of a live-action TV show forever, and their streaming service will be a perfect place to do that.
Exactly. I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start doing it on the streaming device.
There's already rumors that
through theaters. I don't know the details with that. However, I definitely believe that they bought that to include the Indiana Jones / Star Wars / all the other properties that they could do. And just spin-offs. Spin-offs. It's just going to be nonstop.
Right, but but what I'm saying is, what's the point of
they don't have to worry about the risk of feature film?
What's the point of taking something, shoehorning it into a timeline, and saying, yeah, that fits a little bit. That works. Why don't we just go with that? Instead, why not just tell an original story with new characters that maybe surrounds a familiar event, so that way you're a little bit more free with the timeline, and people are getting something new that exists in the Star Wars universe.
That'd be streaming device only.
Like Rogue One. No, they already did it. They already put it in the movie theaters. It was Rogue One. They mildly fucked with the timeline. The only original character that was in that was Darth Vader, Leia, Mon Mothma, General Nadine. That's it.
But it fit in the gap. It made sense.
It did, and it didn't fuck with it too much. I know a lot of people really get on.
It didn't bother me.
No, a lot of people really get on that last scene where the Tantive 4 takes off and then Vader follows, and then which literally means that like 20 minutes later, Vader's on her ship when A New Hope starts. That bothers me far less than
you gotta look
than messing with the characterizations of Han Solo and Obi-Wan, which they haven't done yet because I haven't seen those films yet. I just feel it. I just kind of know it. As a Star Wars fan, I just kind of know that there's this need to fill every gap, and that was the problem with the expanded universe
before. At the
before.
same time, have they fucked up yet, Dave? See, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm giving it to them right now because they are extremely careful of what they're doing right now. The only thing I'm worried about is the Han Solo project. I think they're worried about that. I think it might be a mess. Just saying.
So can we agree that if Danny
I think
Boyle,
Last Jedi is going to be solid.
if Danny Boyle directed Obi-Wan, we'd both be on board?
Well, of course. No, we'll see.
Look, I'm
looking forward to talking
Here's the thing.
about
You're an
this in the
optimistic.
future.
You're an optimistic movie fan.
I
You're
am.
looking at Star Wars on the outside. I'm a massive Star Wars fan who
I get that, and I appreciate that.
who loves something and as a fan, I'm not saying I take ownership of it, but I do feel a guardianship over it. Like I feel like it's something that is to be protected.
I'm looking around his room. I get it.
I know. But here's my problem with the whole Star Wars formula. Before me and you sign off, is every year now we're getting one. At what point do we become saturated? Because I've already said I'm saturated on Marvel right now. I'm getting kind of weak and lukewarm on the Marvel films. I'm getting a little sick of it. I want them to take a break as soon as they possibly can after the Infinity War and Avengers 4. So
Well, Dave, they're pushing them out slowly enough where I think they have another
3
8
a
years.
year. But that's different because they're following different characters. Where this is doing a solo film, a episode film, a solo film, an episode film. So if episode 9 ends and they already have the next 3 planned, and they're like, we're gonna do the Boba Fett solo film, and then we're rolling right into the next trilogy. That's too much. At that point, after episode 9 is done, take 3 years. Shut up for 3 years. Take 3 years.
Won't do it.
Slow the roll a little bit.
I get it though. I
But
agree.
Star Wars, the popularity of Star Wars has always been built on hype. 3 years in between each of the original films. Then darkness until 1999.
Right.
Then those came out. People hated Phantom Menace. 3 months after the film came out, people admitted to hating Phantom Menace.
You're developing hysteria.
Right. And then
anticipation.
2005, Revenge of the Sith comes out. Darkness again. Until 2015 when this comes out.
I think
develop
if they
your
were-
hunger
if-
again.
If they were smart, they would do that with the features, but they would keep the continued success. I think that's going to happen with the streaming device with the Disney, with the smaller programs.
At this rate, I'm
they
never going to
continue
see
with
the end of
that-
Star Wars. I will die before Star Wars saga ends, and that's not right.
You probably will.
I probably will. I think
Honestly, I mean, it's kind of sad.
I think at this rate, they are banging it home, and they are not going for longevity here. They are just getting their O faces while they can. They're cashing in their money, and they'll take a break when it stops being profitable. Is what they'll do. The first unprofitable
Maybe.
film, they'll finish out whatever they have in their slate, and they'll take a break.
Or not even so much that, just something that just drops the ball.
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it for Super Movie Brothers tonight. I have been your long-winded and terribly defensive host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
And I have been your
Far more
other-
accepting.
far more accepting, and lackadaisical host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Which equals 100% more cunty than me. You can find... If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes Podcast. Just go on there, search Super Movie Brothers, leave us a 5-star review. That will enter you in for the chance to win 2 Funko Pop giveaways. The Episode 1 Naked C-3PO, that is Funko Pop 181, and R5-D5, the little droid with the bad motivator. He is Funko Pop 180 in the Star Wars line. So you can go on to iTunes Podcast, leave us a 5-star review, screenshot the review, and email it to us at supermoviebrothers.podcast@gmail.com. That's supermoviebrospodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at supermoviepod on there. Also, be sure to check out our network, the Podfix Network, via VHS, who recorded a little bit for us on here tonight. We recorded a little bit for them tonight. Be sure to check them out. But you can also check out all the other shows that are part of the Podfix Network at www.podfixnetwork.com. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. If you want to gripe about anything we talked about, you want to tell us how wrong we are, you want to agree with us, you just want to have a conversation about the show, please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers.